I usually write songs that are more fictional. And for some reason, when I sat down to write that song, I let myself write more about how I was feeling at that moment. And that's something I think about a lot as I continue to write music, that the songs that I write that are more personal actually, and that I write without as much editing, are the ones that people connect to more. And I mean that, like, the song was popular on the radio, but before it was popular on the radio, it was actually popular at concerts. You know, it was one of the songs that was the most requested songs at concerts before it was hoisted upon people on the radio. So I felt like it was a song that actually people connected to. And at the time, I was actually having arguments with my boyfriend at the time, who was actually my co-producer as well. We made records together. And then I go off into some other areas that touch on I talk about, I remember somebody close to me was going through severe depression, and a lot of times in my songs, I get into some phase where I say, this is not that. Like, I go into this whole thing describing some other situation, and I say, what I'm feeling now is not that, but, and there's like a whole verse in there about somebody who's very, very depressed. But yeah, it was a story about a breakup I was going through, and that situation where you kind of get into your head too much, partially because somebody else is telling you that you're only hearing what you want. It says you say I only hear what I want to, and that puts you in a little bit of a tailspin. It puts me in a little bit of a tailspin because you can't figure out what's actually real. You know, are you only seeing things through your own eyes, and are you actually seeing things the way that they really are, or are you making things up? And at what point do you know whether or not you're seeing things the way that they really are?
When you turn the radio on and the woman's singing your song, was that a specific song? No,
actually, that was when you hear somebody telling your exact story. You know, it's like when you, and it's funny because it wasn't until later, after a couple of major breakups, that I realized, you know, when you're depressed and you're going through these breakups, and even if the breakup was supposed to happen, it's still like, if you're going through difficult times, it's hilarious how you turn on the radio and even the most cliched things actually perfectly capture how you're feeling. And then you realize why people wrote those songs. Because when you're not going through some of those things, sometimes you think, as a songwriter, you think, that's so straightforward and cliched, but you know what? That's how it feels. And so that was kind of what that was. It's like I turn on the radio, and in a way, I think I wrote that into the song, too, because, I don't know, I think I was relating my story to the fact that everybody goes through this. I'm not so special. You know, this isn't such a special situation that I'm going through, but it still means something to me, and it might not be as depressing as my friend who's, you know, suicidal, but it's still really hard. And then it also, hopefully as a listener, you get even more of a feeling like, you know, when you just can't get away from your problems, you know, you leave your house, you're driving down the road, you're going to go do something different, and all of a sudden you hear, here's my story on the radio. It's like the last thing I need to hear right now.